Hi, folks. Today we're going to talk about web performance and the impact that it can have on your entire shopping funnel, how brands have a better time running their businesses on a faster website. All right, so my goal today is going to be to empower you to have the data you need and irrefutable evidence to prioritize web performance in your organization. To do so, we're going to touch on the attention economy, the fact that milliseconds are dollars, the problem, why this is a challenge for brands, looking at it both from the inside and the outside, so the funnel as in how it affects shopping as users browse your site, and we'll crunch some numbers to help you make a business case for performance. Over the last 20 years, I've touched every part of the web, from soldering, fiber optic routers under a microscope to running digital teams and helping brands make their websites faster. Previously, I was founder and CEO at SpeedSense, so I'll talk in a second about SpeedSense and Yottaa and how we work together. And I have two little girls, so to them, this is what I look like. And he'll be making a reappearance in a minute. So just this month, SpeedSense was acquired by Yottaa to supercharge their web performance services and platform. Yottaa has two main offerings, a managed CDN to help brands run faster websites, and then a third-party application sequencing. SpeedSense factors in there with our first-party coaching, so we help brands run a faster website on their existing stack with the team that they have. And we have a Sensei site speed monitoring platform. The two SaaS tools are being merged together. Enough about me. Let's get into the discussion of the day. First, we'll take a look at the issue from the outside. So everyone here represents both the user of any digital property and often also the practitioner of digital at the website side. So first we'll look from the outside, and this is really who we're going to talk about today, who could be any of us. I far too often feel like this guy. Spaghetti brains, I like to call him, and some days we all have, careers and health and family and to-dos. So thinking about this from a marketing perspective, we're trying to reach someone who's basically unreachable. Focus is fleeting. We're actually getting worse at it. So average human attention span now is 8 seconds. So I'm going to attempt to hold your attention for another 17 minutes and wish me luck. On top of all this, we're being bombarded with advertisements and digital, and attention is the most finite resource. So tying back to this milliseconds matter, the longer you make someone wait, the less likely it is that they're going to become your customer. Anyway, so we're going to explore our friend's mental spaghetti brains here a little deeper. Let's just say you're him, and you've got something on your to-do list, and your friend's wedding is coming up. You've got to buy a shirt. And so we'll follow one of these threads into buy a shirt for John's wedding. Pretty straightforward. I've got the suit. I got the shoes. I know what I need. I know my size. And so one day you're at work and you're taking a break and you decide, let me just do a quick search here and I'll knock this off my list. And of course, your colleague comes by and says, hey, mind if you help me with those TPS reports? So, you lay your phone down, you get back to work, but it's too late. You've already committed the cardinal sin of the modern internet, and you've shown purchase intent. So the algorithm now has you, and from here on out, you'll be force-fed ads, all designed to extract your money until you make that eventual purchase. Anyway, you lay your phone down, you go back to work, you finish your day. And you get home after work, and you're unwinding, catching up on your feeds, and talking to your spouse. And you see this, of course, eerily specific, weddingshirts.com. How do they know? But fair enough, let's take care of it. So you click through the ad, and you see does it feel like I'm broken if I stop in the middle of a conversation with you? So your brand is in the middle of a conversation with your customer. They started it on social, they clicked through to your website, and you just gave them nothing for 8 seconds. So how did we get here? Surely that wasn't the intention of this big campaign, to get that ad in front of the user, to get them just to look at a white screen. So now we're going to flip the perspective, look at it from the inside out, from the brand's perspective. How did this all come to be? How did we get here? And so we got here from this ambitious marketing campaign, our spring 2025 wedding campaign. You spun up a big internal squad. Budgets are getting tighter. Programmatic SEO is more expensive. Generally, it's harder to make an impact right now, so you get a $2 million ad spend across creative and targeting, the salaries of your marketing team, your photographer, all to deliver this beautiful white sheet of nothing, the landing page that they never see. So who internally dropped the ball? Why was this an issue? We're going to talk about generally three main groups of staff, or we'll say silos, for lack of a better word. Marketing team's job is to get people to the website, so drive the traffic. And then we've got an e-commerce operations team whose job it is to turn those clicks into dollars. Conversion rate optimization, AOV, lots of different metrics to measure that. And finally, the engineering squad, whose job it is to support the foundation of all of this and facilitate these other teams to do their work well. But every person on each of these teams also has a brain full of spaghetti. So, the marketing team sees that, Meta says we drove 3 million impressions on our $2 million ad spend. And they say, what the hell? Ops, what happened to our conversion rate? Why don't we have the sales we'd expect from this? And Ops says, well, Google only shows 2 million visitors, so I don't know what you're talking about. We've already got a disconnect here. And so marketing goes back to the engineering team and says, hey, why is the website so slow? What the hell? It's not loading. And they say, well, listen, you asked me to put this tag manager on so that you could circumvent our slow development process, and you filled it up with bloat and tags, and now, it takes 20 seconds for the site to load. So then Ops says, hey, engineering, why is the site so slow? This is your job, make the website faster. And they say, you tell me what to do. You set my priorities, and I've been telling you for years the website is slow and we should address it, and you've never made a business case for it and never put it on my backlog. And so, you tell me when it's time to work on the website. And so our hero here, the poor Ops product manager, decides, okay, I'm gonna take this on. I'm gonna make a project, make the website faster. And they're doing their best, and they go to the web and they say, where am I gonna start for this? I need to make a business case. How fast are we now? Where do we need to get? And so they go and they scan, speed of my website, and they find a dozen different tools, and they spit out 100 different metrics. And this brand has thousands of pages. Some of our clients have hundreds of thousands of pages. And this is just, again, mental spaghetti. It's impossible to make a business case when you've got millions of data points. You don't know where you are. You don't know where you need to get. And so better defined projects are going to take priority. And site speed is going to continue to degrade as third parties are tagged on, as other projects, AI, chatbots are strapped onto the website. So unfortunately, our hero here needs a little broader perspective. He can't see the label from inside the jar. And, doing their best with the limited scope that they have. And this is actually very common. No one in most of the organizations we work with has been tasked with performance as their KPI. And the buyer for site speed and user experience in general can often vary between, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's operations, sometimes it's an engineering squad. And so, I'm here today to help you get the picture from outside the jar of how this fits into the whole health of your business, not just from this one poor stakeholder's perspective. So now let's do the math. Let's crunch some numbers. We're going to go into case studies around how site speed impacts top and bottom of funnel. But first we need business 101, which is get customers, do something, get profit. E-commerce isn't too far off here. We've got, get customers and then turn that into profit. And I'll just go through this. We're going to talk about some of this today and get a little deeper. So get customers. How do we do that? We've got a variety of different sources from which we're going to drive traffic, ads and SEO like we talked about already, but email, referral, partners, all of this materializing into visits on your website. Some of these people are going to stick around. Some of them are going to walk right by, like, a couple of folks just bounced on this talk. I get it. We want to convert you to visitors. And this is a hard business. Trust me, I get it. And so the ops team here comes into play. Finally, this turns into revenue, but revenue is not where the story ends. You've got to pay for the hosting of the website. You've sold, a new pair of shoes, but you've got to buy those shoes. So there's costs of the goods that you've sold. The fulfillment, you've got to ship this stuff across the country. You've got to run your business. You got to pay for your head office, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, the profit comes out. So there's narrow margins here. This is a challenging business, but for the purposes of today's talk, we're going to talk about online. So everything that happens in this top funnel, below the fold, we'll say, is what's happening offline. I unfortunately not going to address your particular mental spaghetti today. So we'll focus on what we can control, though. So let's talk about, this is the shopping funnel from a web perspective, ending in revenue. But not all of this is directly in our control. We can't really influence visitors or revenue directly. We can only focus on the inputs that we can have with hopefully the outputs that deliver the results that we need. And so we'll go through these three categories here one at a time and talk specifically about how site speed has impacted the performance of these slices of the funnel. So Google's not explicit about much, but they've been pretty explicit about the fact that faster websites are going to rank better. So you're going to get more traffic, and programmatic ad spend costs, are influenced by your site's quality score. So again, site speed factors into your ad budget. So a couple of case studies. Carpe is a skincare deodorant brand. They sped up their site by about 40 to 50%, depending on which number you're looking at, and saw a 10% increase in traffic. So, top of the funnel, faster website, more traffic. Ingram Microservices is a SpeedSense customer. And in just 3 months, they made their homepage 40% faster and saw a 35% increase in organic traffic. So for them, this was wildly successful. Their ROI was in the 10x magnitude. So for today, these are some really impressive case studies. Let's take a conservative approach and say, if you could make your site 2 seconds faster, say you get 5% more traffic. We'll start with that. So now moving down. So we've got higher traffic. Let's address bounce rate. Adobe made their site about 50% faster, again, depending on the metric you look at, and saw a 6% reduction in bounce rate. Revelry is a bridesmaid dress company, so wedding apparel, made their site 43% faster, saw an 8% improvement in bounce rate. So again, there are hundreds of case studies out there. There's irrefutable proof that faster website leads to better business outcomes. Let's take a conservative approach and say, imagining we made it 2 seconds faster, we'll shave 5% off our bounce rate. We're going to tie this all together in a minute. Conversion rate. So conversion and performance is not a single number. It's a distribution. You've got some faster sessions, fast devices, high-speed networks. You've got some iPhone 3s on, 3G wireless. And so it's always going to be this bell curve, basically, of performance. And what we aim to do is move that bell curve to the left, closer to 0. So the times are shorter. And you can see on this curve on the top left here, higher conversion rate for faster sessions. This is a very common trend that we see in many of our customers. In this customer in particular, they saw a 7.6% improvement in conversion rate, which equaled about a $6 million annual revenue lift. It's huge for them. This was a SpeedSense customer. Next up, Snipes. So a footwear company, they made their site 30% faster and doubled their conversion rate, which is absurd. Granted, it was from 1% to 2%, but there aren't many projects you could take on in your organization where you'd expect a doubling of your conversion rate. Staples made their median 1 second faster, so thinking of the middle 50th percentile of that bell curve, and saw a 10% conversion rate increase. So again, conservatively, let's imagine you made your site 2 seconds faster, and you saw a 5% lift in conversion. So Yottaa, SpeedSense's acquiring company, my new employer, runs a big study. They've analyzed over 500 million page views across 1,300 top e-commerce companies and saw generally TLDR, save a second, increase sales by 3%. Okay, listen, I know I'm killing you with these numbers. I'm trying to demonstrate that for this kind of project, there's irrefutable proof. There's tons of case studies where brands have made their website faster and the business more successful. So we're going to bring it all together for our friend here. Make the website faster. I need to make a defensible business case. So we're going to crunch the numbers. Again, cardinal sin, I'm sure, of PowerPoint, but we're going to do math right now together. So bear with me. Back to our spring 2025 campaign. On this $2 million ad spend, we'll say we drove 2 million visits. Bounce rate was 40% arbitrarily. We say with 3% conversion rate at an average order value of $100 gives us $6 million in revenue. So we spent $2 million. We made $4 million ROI. Now we'll take our conservative estimates of 5% faster, 2 seconds faster gives 5% more visitors, 5% lower bounce rate, 5% increase in conversion. Not particularly, very, very conservative. We're looking here to protect what's the worst case scenario if we made the site faster. And so again, same $2 million spend, now you get 2.1 million visits, 38% bounce rate, and a slightly better conversion rate. This might get lost in the noise if you weren't looking specifically for it. But this results in basically $600,000 in incremental revenue, which would more than pay for the investment in site speed. So, the 15% uplift, I guess, in retrospect here is pretty straightforward, 5 and 5 and 5. But we're talking about worst case scenario. The upside, like we just talked about a minute ago, was, one brand saw $6 million in incremental revenue. One brand increased their conversion rate by 100%. So it would be irresponsible not to try this. And then you can feed that additional budget back into your programmatic, back into your other ads, other channels, other marketing channels and campaigns. So Shawn, where do we get the money for this? You've talked about the fact that we're going to do more with less, budgets are tight, economic headwinds, etc. What's it going to cost? So one place we see this sometimes is, let's take it right out of that programmatic ad spend. Spending 1.9 million on a fast website, just proven, is going to be more effective than spending 2 million on a slow website. And so, everything, if you're a marketer, you're much better off. You're going to have more career success and more impact if you're doing your work on a fast website. There are 100 other places in your business that could benefit from a faster website. I'm not going to go through these all just in the interest of time, but I know as the spaghetti brains shopper on the outside of things, I'm not particularly inclined to chat with a chatbot when you've built a perfectly good user interface. So just thinking about small places you could take a little slice of budget from any of these. Attending an event is not cheap. Running your third-party scripts on your site, you've probably got a lot of tools. Anything you're going to add to your site is a hypothesis. You want to work with high confidence when the risk is high. So, what else can you take on to impact every slice of the funnel? Speed is the only lever that you can pull that impacts everything. Here's some cheat sheet for you to bring home. You can take a photo of this and run your brand's numbers through it. Make some predictions, walk across the aisle and talk to your colleagues, because no one person is going to own all of this, but it's going to roll up to success for your whole business, so that everything that you're doing may excel. It's a nice spreadsheet joke for you. Thank you all. My name is Shawn. I'm founder and CEO at SpeedSense, now acquired by Yottaa. We help brands run a faster website so they may earn more revenue online. I hope I've left you with a strategy and a business case to make performance a priority at your company. We're just across the hall here over in aisle 800 at Yottaa's booth 855. We're doing free site speed assessments. If this is something that's interesting for your brand, drop by and say hello. Yottaa, with the acquisition of SpeedSense, delivers visibility into performance, expertise on how to improve your stack, and acceleration by actually speeding up the website that you run today. Thank you for your time.